Welcome, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. This is Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after another Jets loss. Now, 8 losses in their last 9 games. I was looking at, their body language and what they were saying in the days leading up to this game. After that Calgary victory, I had really thought that there was, a recapturing of confidence that was happening after that game, Ken. But Wrench Doozer says it right here. 3 games left to get things ironed out. Time for a bigger iron. This season is running out, and I remember we talked about this earlier. The Winnipeg Jets had said, it's a good thing this is happening now and not later in the season. Well, it's later in the season now. It is completely later in the season. I'm starting to wonder what is left to be salvaged of their confidence with this much time left. I mean, if they win 2 of their next 3, or even if they run the table 2 against Vancouver and Toronto, which is, I don't believe, going to be that Toronto team, is that going to be enough confidence to build off of, Ken, at this stage?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, Sean, no doubt about that. We know the Jets' offense has kind of gotten a little bit quiet of late. I think, what are they at now? They're at 13 goals now in their last 9 games. I mean, that's not a lot of goals for a high-octane offense. What I do think, though, Sean, is a valid, theory by the Jets saying they need to improve on their 5-on-5 play. Yes, today, you could argue that, yes, 2 of those were tip-ins, but I think there were also a couple of preventable goals once again, right? There was a couple of coverage issues once again, and a bit of a turnover on the puck up the middle. It should have been a clean exit, but it was a little bit behind Pierre-Luc Dubois, and then it ends up in the back of the net. So I do think it is accurate, though. Paul Maurice saying the Jets cannot win a run-and-gun series with the Leafs or the Oilers. That's true, but they also can't win against those teams without getting any offense. So it is a very delicate balance. And Sean, we talked about this on the way down. Blake Wheeler's answer to my question about finding the offense and him saying that's a dangerous game, that's I mean, he's right, but it's also something that needs to be also sorted out. We expect that element to come because it's the best part of their game, but right now it has gone a little bit silent. There's no doubt about that.
I wonder Paul Maurice's response to that and talking about the offense and essentially saying we can't worry about that right now. You touched on it, Ken. Him saying we're not going to win a series, we're not going to outscore the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we're not going to outscore the Edmonton Oilers. This was supposed to be the deepest team in the North Division. I had believed that. I think on paper they are. I think on paper they clearly are. I wonder how the message from a coach who is saying to his players who are an offensive team, I mean, Mason Appleton now becomes the 8th Jets player this season to hit double digits in goals. This is a team that knows how to score. And I wonder, you and I had this conversation down the stairs, and I don't want to call it losing the room, but I will say this. I wonder if the players feel there's a difference in philosophy between what they think they're capable of doing and what Paul Maurice feels they're capable of doing, because clearly Paul Maurice, he said it out loud, does not think that this team is capable of outscoring either the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Edmonton Oilers, one of the 2 teams they're going to be playing, and that they are going to have to beat them with defense. But look at this team's defense. I don't know that there's a lot of people who would have looked at this team and thought this team, based on their players on the back end, is going to be a defensive stalwart. Do you think that it's hard for... I agree with you. I think he's right. I think it's the only path to winning. But do you not think that it's somewhat of a hard sell to the Winnipeg Jets players that they need to be a defensive juggernaut in order to beat these offensively gifted teams?
Yeah, I don't think he's asking them to become a defensive juggernaut, Sean. What Paul Maurice is saying is that he needs that group to win games 2-1 and 3-2, not 6-5. So I do know where you're coming from. I mean, this is the constant struggle, the constant battle, where you have a bunch of offensive guys saying, don't worry, we've got this. But teams don't win like that in the playoffs. So there is a bit of a push and pull. I don't dispute that 1 second. However, I mean, we've heard it from Blake Wheeler a lot. The year that the Jets won on their run, they were both a high-scoring group and were able to take care of their own end. And what Blake Wheeler talked about the other day is that the pressure they created in their team defense is what eventually wore those other teams down by frustrating them, and that led to those opportunities. Right now, the Jets aren't converting those opportunities, right? So Philip Gustafson will not be playing goal for any of those teams in the playoffs. He's frustrated them on Monday and Saturday of this week. The Jets need better finish around the net. There's just no way around that. Again, we talked about this in a couple of different levels. I know that Kyle Connor was annoyed by the line of questioning. This is one of the longer slumps he's had in the NHL. This is the Jets' most prolific scorer over the past 4 seasons. Right now, he hasn't scored a goal in 7 games, and we saw tonight on his 2 shots on goal, which gives him 8 during those 7 games. Kyle Connor waited a little bit too long, and by the time he shot, his stick was hit. It wasn't a dangerous chance, and then he was left all alone in front of Gustafson. That's the kind of chance that he gets and shows off his outstanding hands 99 out of 100 times. Instead, he kind of felt like he rushed it and kind of flicked a wrist shot, where normally that's something that he buries bar down. When Kyle Connor's feeling good, Sean, that's bar down, right? So,
right.
To me, again, you talked about confidence. Right now, Kyle Connor is not feeling as confident as normal. But guess what? I mean, it matters what he does in the playoffs. So let's see what he can do at that time. We know he's a prolific scorer. I expect him to be able to have a chance to find his confidence. But right now, he's not feeling it in quotation marks. But Mark Scheifele tonight, you said it before he got his goal. This was an impressive showing by Mark Scheifele, and an important one, based on what happened on another Hockey Night in Canada game not that long ago. For me, was he not the Jets' best player tonight?
I thought so, although I want to touch on it a little bit later on what happens to that line in the third period, because I thought I liked their first 2 periods. I thought they got caved in the third period. We'll get to that. I wanted to just bring this up because I want to get the audience in here. Brent Palachuk says, again, can't play defense and score at the same time. I'm fascinated by the idea of this. It's essentially the question that I asked Paul Maurice, in which he responded. I'd asked him about the balance and trying to get your team focused in on the 5-on-5 game that they're trying to play defensively, but adding the offensive touch to it. And his response had been essentially like, we can't worry about that. We just got to worry about getting the defensive game down and take it from there. But I do wonder about this question. Is this team able to score if they're playing that defensive game? And if not, are we looking at, the best case scenario is, 4 to 7 game series with 2-1 victories every time the Jets happen to win those games?
Well, again, too, let's not forget that one of the most dynamic players on the Jets roster is currently not playing. Again, one player doesn't necessarily immediately solve the goal-scoring woes that have shown up late. However, Nikolai Ehlers is a game breaker and a game changer. So one thing we talked about also, Sean, again, we've got all this information just flowing upstairs in that press box in our 6 feet apart. Right now, Pierre-Luc Dubois needs someone with a little bit more speed on his line. We know why this line was put together. Matthew Perreault is a tenacious forechecker. He's got great hands. He can create chaos on the forecheck. But right now, that combination with Paul Stastny is not generating enough in the offensive zone right now. There's not a lot of speed going with that line. Ehlers flips that on its head. Ehlers is probably the fastest Jet. So now there's a ton of speed on that line, but right now, that line is not generating at the level we're expecting them to generate at the playoffs. So, I think that Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be fine in this system for the Jets. It's a matter of comfort, and I don't think that he's found his full comfort level just yet. Can that change when Nikolai Ehlers is around? Again, to me, this has gone... Pierre-Luc Dubois is in deep. It hasn't gone well for him. It hasn't been smooth. But you always hear about... it's a new season. Nobody is looking forward to the playoffs more than Pierre-Luc Dubois, because it's a chance to start at 0 with everybody else. In a year where he had a quarantine, he had injuries, it hasn't gone smoothly, that's a chance to start at 0 for him, and I think he will quiet a lot of the doubters when that time happens. But for right now, another big development today, even though the line came on a blended shift, Mason Appleton scoring for the first time in 18 games was very important. You know why?
Oh, yeah.
Because in the playoffs, those guys are the people that are the difference, right, Sean? Those are the people, those third line guys. The high end guys often even out. It's the third and fourth line guys that create the separation in terms of teams trying to win a series. And I know that Mason Appleton said he had been getting some chances, and he's right. But I think that for him, it's big for his confidence to get one. And again, like we said about Kyle Connor, I think if Kyle Connor can get on a hot streak, I think he needs to get one before the playoffs, so he's feeling good about himself going in. We know Adam Lowry had a big game in his return. Appleton gets going, but there's a few more Jets that need to get themselves rolling here. There's no doubt about that.
I want to back up to you talking about PLD, because we had that conversation in the box and your suggestion that he needs a guy on his wing with speed. I go back to the time that he was playing with Nick Ehlers and Kyle Connor, two guys with speed to burn, and I'm not sure that I liked him that much there. I mean, I'm going to be honest, and I've talked about this before, but I think the Jets are doing too much to find a way to unlock Pierre-Luc Dubois when they've had Paul Stastny in the middle, capable of doing what he's doing. I'm taking a look at what he's doing down the stretch here. I asked Paul Maurice about him before the game. He said he's like 5 of his last 7 games. I think he's doing a lot of the things, and this is the player that they got, was a guy who does a lot of the behind the scenes things that, set a team up for success. But they need more. They need more from their second line center at this stage than a 22-year-old man who's doing a lot of the little things right, but really I'm not sure is having that much of an impact on the game. And I wonder about that second line. Yes, I want to see what happens when Nick Ehlers comes in and we see Pierre-Luc Dubois and Stastny and Nick Ehlers. I'm waiting to see that, but you know exactly where I'm going with this, Ken. If this isn't working...
Ty agrees with you already.
Yeah, he needs to go down to the third line on that line, because if he does all the little things right, and if he works the boards properly, and if he leans on guys, then put him down on that third line whose job it is to do exactly that, and get Kyle or Andrew Kopp up alongside Stastny and Nick Ehlers, which I contend was the best line that we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets so far this year. And honestly, Ken, I wasn't trying to go in that direction to plug that idea again, because I know I've plugged it a ton here, and I'm almost doing it a joking manner at times. But I'm just at the stage right now where what have we seen from Pierre-Luc Dubois? I mean, how nice would it have been? I'll ask this question, because people love to talk about who won this trade and who didn't, and I know people like to say Patrick Laine is on the fourth line in Columbus, and that's proof that the Jets won this trade. Never mind the fact that Jack Roslovic has more points per game than either of those two players. But who thinks out there right now that at some point during this streak, Patrick Laine wouldn't have done something special at some point to give this team a charge on a team that can't find offense at this moment? And yes, you may say to me, and you'd be right if you said that, Patrick Laine is a player who's gone to sleep offensively at times before. He's also been a guy, when the Jets offense have hit these snags, has been a guy who's gone out and absolutely carried the team offensively for a point in time. How nice would it have been if the guy they had traded for would have every once in a while down the stretch during this snag been the guy who threw the team on his shoulders? I don't think he's capable of that. I think he's still trying to fit in. I'll say it again. This is a guy who's going to be a really good Winnipeg Jet. I just don't think he's there yet. Take the quarantine, take all that's happened with this season, take all the weirdness of it, and let's say that it's affected him, but he's not there. And he's got 3 games to figure that out, and the team has 3 games to figure that out. And I just feel that experimenting around him to try and make him at center as an experiment work right now is not working, and it's clear at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to reverse the deal, Sean, as you know, and also the Jets can't win a series without getting Pierre-Luc Dubois involved. And even if involved means using him in a checking role like you suggest, but that's the simple reality. And again, we know this has been a tough year, and you're right. Right now, he's not playing near a peak level. Neither is Laine. Neither one of those guys is rolling right now. But that doesn't mean that they can't get it going. I mean, no, Laine is going to go home and he'll probably go to the World Championship and get things sorted out. The only way out of this is through it. So Dubois is going to have to find it, right? He's going to have to find his way. You're right. And does that mean he has to stay in the top 6 for the entire playoffs? No. I mean, if it's not working, the Jets are either going to be out of the playoffs or they will have found a solution. So for me, I totally understand the frustration, and I understand where you're at with that. But again, I will stand by this. I don't think that the Jets can win a series without Pierre-Luc Dubois being a contributor. And we know that he has been a contributor on other playoff teams that have beaten teams that people think they couldn't have beaten. So it's super interesting. But again, we know that it hasn't gone smoothly. But again, I don't think that Pierre-Luc Dubois is about to, cash in his chips on the season, say, see you in October. I think that he's going to do whatever he can to battle through it. And you're right. Maybe that means moving him to the wing and playing him. I mean, I think another option would be to play. We know that Stas put him on the left wing with Stastny and Wheeler, right? I mean, maybe you do that as well. Maybe then you flip Ehlers up with Kyle Connor, and maybe that's the way to unlock Kyle Connor's slump, right? I mean, Ehlers has that kind of speed that can open up opportunities. Ehlers and Connor played together for long stretches this year, had some success for sure. But, I mean, it'll be interesting because, as you mentioned, I mean, Paul Maurice made it pretty clear he doesn't want to mess with the lines. These are the lines that he thinks that he can roll with and win with. So right now they're battling through some offensive woes. There's no doubt about that. Their power play has gone cold. I don't think the movement has been fast enough. I don't think that their most dangerous players on the power play have been dangerous enough. So, and we've seen some interchanges. We've seen Scheifele and Connor now interchanging along with who's on the wall. I think that's a smart way to do it. I actually thought, again, very limited time, but the second unit had some nice opportunities again. I liked what I saw from Ville Heinola up running that second unit. So let's see where things shake down.
We'll get into Heinola for sure, but Tracy Okranek saying PLD needs a stable line and some routine right now. That blender has just confused him. Who do you think has been affected by the blender more, if they have been affected? I do believe that the blending all season has led to where we are at now with the almost confusion of the players on different lines. Who do you think has been more affected by it, PLD or Kyle Connor?
I mean, to a degree, both players, but I mean, I think, Kyle Connor wasn't struggling to score when he was with Ehlers, right? I mean, like Paul Maurice laid it out pretty aptly this morning. Like, usually when a guy like that goes through a bit of a drought, he's able to get a couple of cookies on the power play so it doesn't feel like there's a slump happening, right? You can chip in a point here, you can chip in a point there, one-timer here. Now you're feeling good, even though you're not generating as much. And here's the thing, Sean. Before the slump started, Kyle Connor had 6 shots on goal and a goal against the Leafs. That's the goal that Mark Scheifele set up on that 2-on-1 where they chased Jack Campbell when Scheifele had the breakaway goal right after it. So it's super interesting to see how these things are monitored. We know something that we noticed today as well. Like, players are ready for the playoffs to begin, and I understand that people don't want to hear about that, but people are not, I'm not necessarily saying tapped out, but they're ready for the next thing, right? That's what I think. I see that on players' faces. We saw it on Josh Morrissey's face on his Zoom call today.
Yeah.
I think that the team, again, same as going into Edmonton, the team that is able to lock in their mental game during the playoffs is going to have success, because we know this is tough. These are tough times for everyone. We know what it's like with the new order going in as of midnight. It's tough for everybody. Players are not immune to this. We understand that you'd like players to be immune with it. They're getting paid. Yeah, we know they're getting paid, but they also have human emotions that they're dealing with, and I think it's been a factor. I really do. We'll see what happens. The one thing we know about the Jets, there's not a lot of middle ground. It either is going to end quickly or it could go for a while, right? There doesn't seem to be much middle ground, and just when you think you've got them figured out, Sean, there's a curveball thrown, right? Like, imagine the people at home when Connor Hellebuck jams his finger against the post with his stick and goes to the bench taking off his blocker. If that's a broken hand, well, people are thinking, is this August again? Is this Mark Scheifele going out on his third shift? Is this Patrick Laine missing the last 3 games? Is this Mason Appleton getting knocked out of the first game? I mean, that's the thing. You can't bubble wrap your players, but Paul Maurice basically admitted every coach right now is thinking, just get to the final buzzer and get to game 1 of the playoffs. And I understand that's a tough mentality, but those are facts, right? Every time a player steps on the ice, he could get hurt. And then now all the second guessing happens. But you can't just ice an entirely different team. You can't put the entire Manitoba Moose in. you're going to have to get to the finish line because the Jets have things that they need to work on before they get to the playoffs, right?
Yeah, the helicopter's back. How about this idea by the great Joe Piscucci? If you're looking to spark something, and again, I hate the idea, and it's one of the things that I didn't like so much about the Heinola discussion constantly, the idea of bringing a rookie in to solve everything that ails you. It's a tall task, but I wonder about the idea of bringing a Cole Perfetti on, who's on a little bit of a streak here, give them a little bit of what's happening in Montreal right now with Cole Caulfield. Cole Perfetti, do you think he could do something and just, have a guy come in who's not so squeezing the stick right now, have a guy come in loose and maybe allow him to try and show the way?
Yeah, I mean, I went and saw Cole Perfetti during the last home game for the Moose this year. I liked his game, but I don't, again, and I know fans will not like to hear this, I don't think he's NHL ready. Caulfield's a year older, a little bit stronger. I think that Perfetti's had an outstanding season, incredible second half. He's done an exceptional job. Early in the year, a lot of his points were coming on the power play, but now he's added that 5-on-5 element and he's been a real force. But he's not an explosive skater. His spatial awareness and his smarts would probably allow him to, think the game at that level. But I just don't, from what I've seen so far this year, and I'm impressed by what I've seen, and I think that Cole Perfetti is going to be an exceptional NHL player. I don't think that bringing in a 19-year-old who turned 19 on January 1st is a cure-all for a struggling Jets offense. Again, he processes the game fast enough. He could probably make a contribution if put in the right situation, but you're not going to try to jam him into the top six, and he's not ready to be on the Lowry line as a checking line player, and I don't know that his skill set is going to fit in with Nate Thompson and Trevor Lewis or Jansen Harkins, whatever he fits on the fourth line. So I totally understand the idea, and I think if there was an 82 game schedule, you might try that out, but I don't see that as an option the Jets are considering. However, I do think there could be some great benefits to Cole Perfetti. I don't know what the expansion of the taxi squad is going to look like for the playoffs, but I do think that the Jets will try to have him around the team once the Moose season is over. Again, he had another exceptional shot where he beat Freddie Anderson in that game against the Marlies this afternoon, and I think he may have also added a shootout goal. So again, exceptional season, always important to remember. If there wasn't a COVID season and the OHL was playing, Cole Perfetti would have played 0 AHL games this year. He's having a great year. Leave him there, let him finish out the year, and then bring him up for the postseason. And if, as you mentioned, in case of emergency break glass, if that's an option that needs to be looked at in the playoffs, well, try it then. But I don't see it happening before the end of the regular season. There's too many players who need to get their game in order to have success in the playoffs before that happens.
Kenny, I wanted to try something fun here. We've got, I was waiting for the clock to hit 200 people here. If you were on our pregame show, I promised a little bit of a surprise. You know how much we appreciate our fans, how much we love you all, guys and gals out there. Over Kenny's head, you'll see our symbol was done by Richard Medeiros, a fan who watched the game and sent Kenny that logo, said the logo we had wasn't good enough, we needed better. He was right. That was absolutely gorgeous. I know that there's fans of Sean's headband out there. I saw earlier on in the comments that people are blaming me for not wearing the headband, and that's where the Jets are. We had one of our viewers who's on here all the time by the name of Tristan Rivers. He has created a song, an intro song for the games where I wear the headband. He sent it to me out of the blue, and I was thinking, what's this going to be? I listened to it. It is now my favorite song. So everyone, crank up your computers, your TVs as loud as you can. I'm going to play you the Sean's headband intro song. Ready? Because this rocks. How awesome is that? So So Tristan Rivers, thank you so much. I've been reaching out to him. It's funny, I've been playing that song over and over again. My kids and I have been playing it, and like I'm like you, Kenny. We love our '80s music, so I had to like go bust out some like Slaughter songs and stuff like that. So
that's right out of there. Yeah, exactly.
So I could play that for my daughters and kind of show them, what was what, where this is coming from. So in honor of Tristan Rivers, it is very unorthodox. I got the suit on. We're in the building. I got the hair all done up. I am putting on the headband for that one because that was absolutely phenomenal. Let's get some Axl Rose kind of stuff going on here. But hand it to Tristan Rivers. That was absolutely awesome. And I just want to say we're in the process of trying to get that animated so that it's not just your old 19 or 2001 computer that's just playing a song in the background. We wanted that to be or we're going to get something really, really cool. I've got something good in mind, Ken. I think we can pull it off. It's going to be a fun part of the show. I also wanted to open up to anyone out there who knows how to do that kind of stuff, who knows how to either animate or build video for something like that. If you're interested, just let me know. I'll send you the MP3 that we have of it. You can build something and send it our way. If you're interested, people on the show pitching in so much. We just absolutely love it. And I just wanted to say once again, thank you.
Tremendous.
Because that absolutely rocked. Unbelievable.
Hursty, hang on a second here. You'll be shocked to know that when I played for the Pembina Valley Hawks, I had an incredible Jaromir Jagr mullet. So I have embraced baldness, and I have no problem with that. But you can ask people from around Altona and the Pembina Valley region. I had some great hair as a teenager, so I just want that record to show that.
The flow. You know what? Someone sent me Munzie we had on the pregame show today, and I don't know. I sent Munzie a picture.
Aces High is actually my theme song. Exactly. Thank you, Robert Starr.
Oh yeah. Munzie has a picture. Munzie is a guy that I don't know. I couldn't imagine him with hair, and someone sent me a picture of him when he was like. He looked like he was 14 and he still didn't have hair. So I still can't imagine what he looked like with hair, but we should get back to the hockey here.
That's a good one here about defense.
Okay, let's get into it.
Craig asked about what are the ideal D pairings for game one?
Okay. All right. You want me to go first? I'm sold on.
Well, you're so fired up about this song. I think I thought I'd catch you when you're on your buzz here.
Yeah, I'm juiced, but I just kind of want to go and like put the fingers up and just do this for about a half an hour right now. So, ideal pairings. I mean, I like the DeMello Morrissey. I think you'd have to go back to. Oh, geez, am I going to get crazy here? Yeah, I might as well get crazy.
I'm already going to argue with you, but.
Okay, I think I'd go. I think I'd do Ben and Heinola like we saw tonight. I think I'd go Stanley and Pionk, and I think I'd go DeMello and Morrissey.
Interesting.
I mean, I wanted to get talking about Forbert. He's struggling. There's no doubt about it. He's struggling. People ask time and time again if there's a chance that, someone asked me on Twitter during the game, is there a chance Paul Maurice is going to pull him out of the lineup? I said no. I don't say that because I don't think it should be an option. I say it because of what I know of Paul Maurice. I can't imagine him getting to this stage in the season and saying, okay, now it's time to pull that card. I think they got to hold on to whatever stability they have. But if people are asking about what my ideal pairings would be, that's my ideal pairings.
Interesting. I think actually, I mean, I obviously enjoy DeMello and Morrissey as well, but I think right now Morrissey's best suited to be playing with Neil Pionk, and I think that DeMello. Actually, I have a different theory. I actually think that DeMello could help sort things out for Forbert, who, as you mentioned, is going through a tough patch. And again, if that scenario doesn't help, then Stanley can jump in. For Forbert, there would be some familiarity on that pairing as well. And then the third pairing then I think would be Poolman with Heinola. I totally understand some folks are down on Tucker Poolman. Poolman's been doing an excellent job of activating in the rush. And what have we been talking about? The Jets need to find a way to get more offense generated. The issue with Poolman is that he's done a great job of joining, but it hasn't led to offensive enough offensive opportunities. So then you could also fit in Ben there with Heinola on that third pairing. What I would say, though, an important thing for folks to remember, Tucker Poolman can be an effective third pairing guy. He's shown that on countless occasions. When he plays in the top four, there have been some times where things don't go as smoothly for him. So that sort of can dictate where the conversation goes. But I think that there is that element. Then you have that big and small kind of idea again. And I think that, I know that you disagreed and told me the competition was over, but I think that every time Ville Heinola steps on the ice, his chances of being in the game one lineup have improved. So again, it's not a done deal, and he will need 3 strong games to finish the regular season. But I think he continues to show the Jets, if he can play to his strengths, he can help them, especially against a team like the Oilers, if that's who they end up playing, where they had difficulties in their sort-outs and their exits. So again, I haven't landed perfectly on my pairings yet, but I do think that Heinola is involved with them. And I think actually that Heinola and Poolman could work because of that mobility angle. And again, of course, I think that we know that DeMello and Heinola can work. I think that in order to try to unlock Forbert, I think that DeMello could be that safe partner for him. And the reason why I also like it, they already kill penalties together. So I think there would be some familiarity in that regard as well. And again, I think also too, if you load up with Morrissey and Pionk, those guys can play some heavy minutes in the playoffs. Then the second and third pairings can be more like, 14 to 16. You don't have to have a wide disparity in terms of the minutes. You play with who's going.
How badly do you think they missed Pionk tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty evident for sure on the back end. He's been their best defenseman. I mean, Josh Morrissey has elevated his game of late. I think there's no doubt about that. But Pionk has been the Jets' best defenseman this year. So, of course, they missed him when he wasn't playing. I mean, just all the things that he does, offense, defense, getting a shot away, his compete level in the defensive zone, his ability to move the puck, they certainly miss him. There's no doubt.
Hellebuck, worried about him after that tonight? I mean, it looked
I'm really
like...
not. I mean, 2 tip-ins again. I mean, what did you want him to do with those?
Well, I didn't want him to do anything with them. To me, his reaction just seems a little bit off. You know what? Let's get into reaction. I wanted to get into this off the top of the show. We just went in a different direction, but we talked about, I thought that the Jets were doing all the things they needed to do to kind of build up their confidence over that losing streak, over the kind of tail end of it. After they came out of Calgary and going into Calgary, I felt like they were saying all the right things, doing all the right things. On the ice, they seemed to be goofing around and joking around. It started to seem like the worm was turning. And then they have that result. They come out of that once again, said all the right things, did all the right things. Paul Maurice said in the practice, he didn't say in the practice. He said after the game today that in those practices, he kind of saw a team with no emotion, doing all the right things, very robotically, but really didn't have any emotion. Said he saw the same thing from the game here tonight. What concerned me is, and a lot of people will have seen, the post game with Mark Scheifele and with Blake Wheeler. It does not sound like a confident group to me. Like I had asked Mason Appleton the question, he handled it a little bit. It was probably a better question for, Mark Scheifele probably would have given a fairly stock answer. Blake Wheeler may have tackled it. But it seems to me that loss tonight was a massive blow to their confidence. Like I don't see this game as being like, they've been trending in this direction, then they went like this with that Calgary game, and then they went down and they're heading back up. This seems like a flat tire on the side of the road, and they're not quite sure how to fix it. Did you get that same take from them?
Not really. I know we're always I'm sorry.
Okay, let's move on.
No. I totally understand that we are looking for all kinds of clues at every turn. The only thing that matters is how the Jets play. You're right. They did not have enough emotion. Paul Maurice is right. But again, these are meaningless games, essentially. The only thing that matters is how the Jets play in the playoffs. Of course, they need to get some things sorted out in their game before they get there. And again, all we've been saying is how great they've been at 5-on-5. Well, today they gave up 3 goals at 5-on-5, right? So then naturally you're wondering, well, that's obviously a step back in that regard, pardon me. But I mean, one of them, 1 or 2 of them are on turnovers. One of them's on a bad read. Backdoor one-timer for Stützle. Overall, I mean, the Jets gave up 23. If the Jets are giving up 23 shots in the play, again, I'm not equating Ottawa to Edmonton by any stretch of the imagination. But if they're able to play that kind of defense, they'll be in games. When you're in games, you need your stars to carry you. You need Hellebuck to steal a game or two in a series. You can't expect Hellebuck to steal 4 games in a series. That I don't think is yes, you can maybe think that could happen, but the Jets are going to have their offense carry them in 1 or 2 of those games, and then maybe Hellebuck steals 1 or 2. But you can't win 16 by just saying the goalie's got to get it all taken care of. Hey, I mean, I understand, Hursty. I understand the folks are frustrated. I totally get it. Confidence, meaningful for confidence, sure. I don't think the Jets come away from today saying they played badly. I just don't think that was the case. They had poor finish around the net, gave up a couple of plays that were easily preventable. I don't see the Jets taking a massive blow to their confidence. I mean, I certainly understand where their body language and I just don't think that looking for clues in a Zoom call is the same as, Sean, when we're in a room in a scrum and you're looking into somebody's eyes and you can say, that guy looks defeated. I don't think that Zoom provides those same type of clues. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, I don't know. I think that they're down, and maybe it's just a loss. Maybe it's immediately. I'm looking for. I guess I asked this question.
Sure.
Blake Wheeler said that they needed to score some dirty goals. That's how they were going to get out of this. That's how they were going to get their offense going. I couldn't agree with him more. I saw, I think, one play where Lowry's line went out and just jammed the puck to the net, created some chaos. It didn't come close, but the puck was sitting there for a while before the goalie found it. There's that ability to kind of get that thing going. And I'd asked Paul Maurice, I mean, who are the guys on this team that you expect to do that? And he'd said everyone, and it makes me question if this team is built for that. I mean, I don't think, and this isn't to pick on those guys, because they've got a skill set that sometimes for the majority of their career has required them not to do that. But I don't ever see jamming the net going on with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Blake Wheeler. It just doesn't seem to happen. And I guess you can see that from Lowry and those guys. I'm not seeing it yet from Pierre-Luc Dubois, which is entirely what we should be seeing at all times. But, talking, and maybe that's emotion. Maybe you only get to that game with some emotion. You touched on it earlier about this team feeling that it doesn't have a lot to play for. But what do the Toronto Maple Leafs have to play for at this stage? What do the Edmonton Oilers have to play for at this stage? Like, I don't think it's about that. I think it's a real poor excuse to make it about that this team doesn't have anything to play for, so it's hard to generate emotion for this. The emotion is that you're excited for the playoffs and you want to be firing on all cylinders for that. And if you can't generate that emotion on a night like tonight, isn't that just a massive problem for this team?
Yeah, again, fair. I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I understand folks are going off on Ottawa, a non-playoff team. Well, that non-playoff team is now 8-1-1 in their last 10, right? And if you look at how the Senators have played this year, what they've done is make life difficult on their opponent. The Senators had brutal goaltending at the start of the year from Matt Murray and Marcus Hoberg. They were, I heard Bruce Garriock, my old Post-Media colleague, mention it on the pregame show with Kelly, Sean. They were ranked 63rd and 64th in the NHL. If they were getting this level of goaltending, we just talked about it in our post-game hit. Ottawa right now is playing, you could argue, they're playing better than Montreal or even Winnipeg at times. So I totally understand why people think that they're a doormat. Well, they were expected to be a doormat. Now they're in a legitimate battle for 5th place in the North Division. And if it were an 82-game season, they might make the playoffs, right? This is reality. If the Senators had a longer runway, they might pass 1 or 2 of those teams. Yeah, I just don't agree, Scott. I mean, that's just not reality. Good teams have lost to Ottawa this year, including Toronto. The only team that got dominated by Ottawa was Edmonton. So some teams just don't match up well with other teams. The Jets still, they finished 6-4 in this 10-game series. I mean, it certainly could cost them, but let's see. I'm with you, Sean. You can't just expect, and lots of people are saying it, you can't just expect to turn a switch. That's not what I'm saying. But to say that the Jets can't win in a playoff game because they don't beat Ottawa on May 8th, it's just simply not the case. Lots of teams can find another level when it matters. Can the Jets do that? That's still a massive question mark. I totally understand, and I am on board with anyone who thinks that. But just to dismiss it outright, I just don't buy that either. Because we've seen when the playoffs start, crazy things happen.
I wanted to go back to the idea of because there was something I wanted to bring up, and I'd forgot it when I was trying to make that point, but the idea of how they were in the post game. Blake Wheeler, the last thing that he said was, we have 3 games to hopefully build some confidence.
No, fair. I mean, Blake told you what he was feeling at that moment. I mean, I just don't see 20 people lacking confidence, Sean. I don't think that they're feeling like they are going to win the cup right now, but I mean, that's natural. It would be hard for them to feel that way if you lose 8 of 9. You're not going to be thinking, you know what, this is a team that's bound to win the Stanley Cup.
No, I know, but that's my entire point. I mean, this doesn't look like a team that is that close to breaking things. I thought they took a big step back tonight, and
that's okay. That's fair.
Okay, so their neutral zone tonight, I thought at times was just absolutely smothering and dominant. They were just constantly forcing turnovers, heading back in. They looked really, really good at points. But I thought this, and so this is what I wanted to get back to, was that third period. I thought for the first 2 periods of that game, I was very impressed by that top line. I agree with you. Mark Scheifele was their best player tonight. Scores one, sets one up. Seemed to be doing a lot of the right things throughout that game, but they got caved in that third period, and it makes me wonder, where's this team's resiliency? Like, this was the stay in the fight team. That was this team's motto the entire season. Stay in the fight, come back in the third period. Did you see any? I mean, I guess I shouldn't entirely dismiss it, because Mark Scheifele does score to make it a 1-goal game before they turn around and take a penalty right away again. But I wonder where this resiliency is in this team, and I am saying that the resiliency that you saw from this team, that kind of chip on their shoulder, that we know we're good, this isn't a problem, we'll get past this, the uber confidence, the swagger that this team constantly showed, probably sometimes to their own detriment, because I think that that swagger allowed them to, get by in games and not address certain issues. But at least they had that swagger to fall back on. But to me, when your captain comes out and says, we've got 3 games to hopefully build some confidence, that's not a statement that builds confidence in me.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally okay, Sean, and I totally understand. There are some concerning things. I'm not saying it's all rosy in Jetsland by any stretch of the imagination. I also think that I'm pointing to my own personal beliefs. 2 years ago, the Tampa Bay Lightning looked like no one could beat them. No one.
Right.
They lost 4 straight. So things are not always as they appear in the short-term view. And again, just like I don't think that everything's been solved. I told you this after the last game, even though the Jets won. I didn't think they put all their problems behind them. I still don't think they do. They still have some issues to work on. I am totally on board with that. At the same time, I don't think that they're that far off. They weren't terrible today. They had some issues. There's no doubt about that. They had some easily preventable things. They're not scoring right now. Is it going to be easy to score in the playoffs? I don't think that for 1 second it's going to be easy. They have the back to your point about resiliency. They've shown they could do it before. Now there's been a long stretch where they've really been wobbling. There's no doubt about that. But they have had that in the reservoir. That was their calling card. So I don't think the Jets have forgotten what it takes in order to tap into that well, even though right now it looks like the well is lacking water. That's all I'm saying. I just think that the Jets are still the same team we thought they were at the start of the year. They're a bubble team. They have an elite level goaltender. They have high-end forwards. They need their defense to be adequate. They need to be better as a 5-man collective unit. So the things that they can be in the playoffs are still in there. Right now, are the pieces fitting perfectly? No. They have lots of players who need to elevate. But I just think that They have the same pieces that were a resilient team before. They haven't gone anywhere, right? Right now, Mike Smith looks amazing. Last August, Mike Smith wasn't the starting goalie by the time the playoffs ended. So I just think that we also, again, I also referenced 2 years ago because, as you've mentioned, rightfully so, the Jets were wobbling going into that series. They were on the verge of taking a 3-2 lead in that series. And if they had been able to win that series, they'd take a deep breath. Hey, the Jets right now are playing like a team that could be out in 5. I see that clearly through my glasses. I see that definitely clearly. If they don't get their swagger back, Sean, if they don't find a way to score goals, the Jets could be out in 5. I see that clearly. But I don't think it's a given that that's the case, and I don't think that the Jets are going to quit on the season, or that there's some big fractured room, or that they don't think that they've lost their direction. If the Jets had lost their direction, a team like Ottawa puts up 40 shots and the Jets lose today 5-1. So they are committed to being better defensively in terms of their structure. And if they weren't, then all of these questions would be valid. But to me, because they are committed to doing the one thing that could help them win a series, that's why I don't think that all is lost for the Jets, and that it's a done deal, that they're going to be out and they're going to be sweeping changes, which, again, all those things are options that could happen, but I don't think they necessarily will happen.
Ken, I love to play the devil's advocate with you and push you, and it's great because it gets you going. And I want to hop on the other side and your side here and bring something up. A couple of years back, when the Nashville Predators went to the Stanley Cup final, their very last game against the season was against the Winnipeg Jets, and down the stretch, they had stumbled down the stretch, and the Jets beat them. Blake Wheeler scored a really, really big goal. It was here. The building went absolutely crazy, and that game had a lot on the line for the Nashville Predators, because I believe they dropped from either 4th or 5th in the division down to 8th and had to play the Chicago Blackhawks in the first round, a team that they hadn't fared well against in the regular season. I remember covering that game. That was a big storyline about them winning and going from here with the potential to drop down. The other games had finished by that point, and we knew at the end of that game that they dropped down to 8th place. And I remember saying, that team's done. They're absolutely done for. And there I was a month or two later covering them in the conference final on their way to the Stanley Cup final, this team that I'd entirely written off. So to your point, I don't think for a second, and that was a team that was wobbling, just like we're talking about here. I don't think maybe wobbling this bad. And I had talked to them during those games, and the questions that I asked were about the same questions we're asking now, about their confidence, about them righting the ship. And they turned around, and I believe they swept Chicago in the first round, did they not? If I remember correctly, I think they beat them 4 straight games to knock off Chicago, and I think that was really the understanding. That was Chicago's real last big shot at winning a cup. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm I don't want to sound like I'm saying that it's all over for the Jets. I think they're in trouble. I think they're in a lot of trouble.
Valid questions. Yeah, valid.
Yeah, but I wanted to touch on a question that someone had asked here just before. I hope I didn't lose it. I know what the question was, and it's a good one. What is the Jets' identity? TB Covers asks. At this stage, I mean, I think we used to be able to say that they were a big, grinding team that tried to turn the puck over at your blue line, bottle you up in your own zone, wear you down, allow you to possess the puck in their zone, and keep you to the outside. I can tell you exactly what the winning model was for that 2018 team, and I can tell you exactly why that Vegas team was able to get past them in the end. But I'm not sure if I can give you a definitive answer of what this team's identity is. Can you?
Well, I mean, they're a fast, skilled team, but right now they're not playing fast, and their skill is not leading to production. So that's why the questions of identity have come full circle.
It's a great question. It's a great question.
I mean, they're a team that's got to be. They're not a defensive juggernaut, even though they have elite level goaltending. They are an offensive team, but they're not producing offense. So that's why right now they're in purgatory right now as a team in terms of their identity. And I mean, that's why a lot of the issues are happening.
We just had this from Scott. We wanted to get Scott on the show. We talked about him. He said he'd come on. We got to get this done before the end of the season. Scotty here. We got to get Scotty Campbell on the show because he'd be a great guy to have on here. Ken, there was so much talk about the 5-on-5 and the Jets getting better at it. Did they take a step back 5-on-5 tonight?
Well, again, I think they took a step back in terms of their defensive zone coverage, which was led off of 2 turnovers, but the big thing that the Jets have been focusing on is their ability to limit the rush chances. And so today, the Senators were not generating a lot of rush chances, right? So again, you can't equate the skill level on Ottawa to that of Toronto or Edmonton. However, in terms of structure, they're not making the overly aggressive bad reads that lead to odd man rushes. So those are the things that they need to do against those teams. So I don't think they took a big step. I think it was definitely a minor step. I mean, if they had gone, they gave up 3 goals at even strength in 4 games and now gave up 3 in 1, naturally that is a step back. I mean, I'm willing to acknowledge that, no problem. I mean, I see the warts, and I'm not saying the Jets are a perfect team by any stretch, even though some of you think I'm making excuses. All I'm saying is that over the course of time, things in the playoffs can be a little bit different. So I do think that the Jets do need to tighten up. We've said this from the very beginning. The Jets are not going to become a defensive juggernaut for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But there's another level that they can reach, and I think they have limited their rush chances, and that's one of the keys to them having any chance of beating the Oilers or the Leafs in a playoff series.
Yuri Gelfand has been on point in our chat room here tonight. What about the Jets' power play?
Yeah.
Let's get to that because it's starting to look problematic. I mean, they seem hopeful with it. Are you seeing enough from it? And what ails them at this stage, Ken? Solve this problem for them, please.
Well, if I could, yeah, exactly. If it
You
were
would
easy
be
to
on
solve,
the Kenny and Renny show, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jamie Compound's got a lot better solutions than I do. But right now, to me, it reminds me of last year. I think the Jets' power play has become too static. They are in a situation where right now they are continually looking for a perfect play. And right now their puck movement is not quick enough. Last year, the puck movement was not quick enough from Pionk to Laine, and that option for the one-timer got taken away as the season went along. Right now, the Jets had switched sides for where they were looking for that one-timer. Kyle Connor was banging them home at will for a long time. I think he had 8 power play goals. But right now, they're not getting... Their puck support is not good enough, and it's not quick enough. We saw so many rim arounds to try... I mean, especially against a team like Ottawa, that is so aggressive in terms of where they have their pressure points. The Jets need to do a quicker job of going down low, half wall, top, shot. But when they've been getting the shots, there hasn't been enough traffic. So that combination of not moving it quickly enough and not getting the traffic to the net has generated not enough. And again, yeah, too much passing for sure, but the passing is only happening because the shot lanes have not been open. So you can't... Teams are so good at blocking shots. We know we have a lot of coaches in our comment section. They know that. When the shot lanes are not there, it doesn't make any sense to pound it into someone's shin pads. That's when 2-on-1s happen the other way. But because the puck movement is not crisp enough, the Jets are not generating enough in terms of shot lanes. And I think, again, we heard the jokes about it earlier on. The second unit has done an awesome job at simplifying and having quicker puck movement and getting shots through. The first unit has to adopt that mentality in order for them to pick that up. And the reason that we've been seeing the frustration, Sean, and we know it's happening, is that for the good chunk of the year, the first unit was splitting that power play almost in 2 evenly. If they hadn't scored within a minute, they would get off. Right now it's stretching to 70 seconds, sometimes 75.
Yeah, we were watching that earlier. And tonight in their first power play, the second unit came out and was the more dangerous of the 2 units. So I thought the coach would be giving that line incentive to get off and give that other team, the second unit an opportunity. But I wonder if maybe Paul Maurice is letting that line stick out longer because there's only 3 games left to go here, and he's thinking, I need to give this unit as much time as we possibly can for them to figure out what they're doing.
Well, I mean, it's always going to be on the players, though, right? Unless there's you're not going to change on a change of possession. But there was one time when I think there was 1:10 left, and then yes, Maurice did leave the first unit on for that face-off. So again, the Jets need those guys going. I mean, they need their power play to not necessarily bail them out, but they need them to be a momentum generator. They don't necessarily need to score on every time, but they need to do a better job of generating momentum even when they don't score.
I think you used the word static, Ken. This Jets power play is one that a lot of different other teams employ. Washington's looks very similar. I noticed last year in the bubble, and I think you and I have had a conversation about this. Tampa Bay employs a similar power play, but what they seem to do is when you stack guys, and let's use the example, their most recent example of where they use Wheeler along the wall. If you've got Wheeler along the wall, Stastny in the middle, and Scheifele on the outside, those guys live in those zones and they stay in those zones. That's where those guys live. They don't really want to move anywhere else. What I noticed that Tampa does is they do this thing where it's almost like a shell game in the middle, where you take Stastny in the middle and Scheifele, and you do this every once in a while. And then you do this between now Scheifele and Wheeler. And what they do is they're trying to, rather than stay static in those one spots that the defense can just decide that's where those guys are. When the two of them move, you're switching it up and you got to choose which guy you're going to go to, or you have to basically go to a zone and cover off a zone. And then by trapping a guy in a zone, you can try and move that other guy who's moving into a different spot. I don't want to get too complicated. I don't have a chalkboard. I don't know how many people are following along with this, but the idea of having a more dynamic power play with more movement, it somewhat baffles me that the Jets haven't tried to do that more often.
I mean, they are trying it now, Sean, right? I think you were seeing more interchanges with Connor down low and then Connor on the sideboards, where Wheeler's back in his familiar spot on the right-hand side. I know what you're saying, and maybe flipping the sides in terms of Scheifele, but again, Scheifele's had a lot of changes this year in terms of where he fits in the structure. And right now, we thought that he would be getting into more of a shooting position by being in line A spot on the left wing half wall. But right now, we're not seeing Mark get himself into a shooting position on enough occasions. And we are seeing Wheeler, still be effective in terms of his distributing, but there hasn't been enough of a secondary shooting threat. Connor has been the primary shooting threat, but I think in order to open up a few more of those lanes, Scheifele needs, he had a one-timer the other night, but he needs to have that moving. And again, a lot of people got on Patrick Laine for saying he was too static in terms of not getting, like Alex Ovechkin, Steven Stamkos, those guys that have the one-timer from that left wing spot, they're not just standing. It's not like Kovalchuk. You're not just waving up the old beaver tail and waiting for a clapper. Those guys are going in and out. They're moving around. Sometimes you get too low, but a lot of times it's got to be just right. And right now the Jets aren't moving it crisply enough. And again, we've seen them have success at times with the high slot tip from Stastny, but right now they're not moving it around enough. Those things are totally fair, but the Jets don't have Connor McDavid to do that, C-Mac. Yeah. I agree with you, but we haven't seen Mark Scheifele comfortable enough in that area where he's the one generating from in terms of the movement. The Jets have one player who does that incredibly well. That's Nikolai Ehlers, who has the reset and the reload. But right now he's not out. And again, when does this power play drought date back to? When Ehlers left. And again, we understand that the first unit's having their own issues, but that's when things started to go a little bit downhill for a unit that has been in the top 5 for a lot of the zone.
I want to touch one last topic here because it's been brought up by the audience. Team toughness. Where do you think they're at with that at this stage? I know that I got an email from a very good friend of mine who I can tell you right now it was very, very high up in the hockey world, and he was absolutely ripping his hair out in some of the responses that he's seen from the Jets over this last little stretch here. Are the Jets, and this is interesting because going into the playoffs last year, Ryan Leslie, our Sportsnet guy in Calgary, and I had this little online debate, and he had said, give him credit. He had said, what are the Jets going to do if the Calgary Flames lean on them? And from what I had seen of Jets teams in the years past, it was like, go ahead, lean on them. It's the worst thing you can do because they can endure it. They can punch back when they need to, but you can also punch them as they skate past you, shrug it off, and go put the puck on the net. I was surprised and thought that they were exposed on the team toughness side last season in the playoffs. I thought, going out and getting Forbert was an effort to address that. Bringing a guy like Logan Stanley into the lineup, I think it's one of the reasons why they felt Nate Beaulieu was so important to this team. But is this just a team at this stage that maybe it doesn't matter in the North Division, although it looks like they even got kind of pushed around by the Toronto Maple Leafs, but is this team just nowhere near tough enough to handle playoff hockey?
I mean, we'll see, right? Proof's in the pudding. Was it a one-off? Was it a COVID playoff? Is it something that's going to be a problem? The Jets are a skilled team. This isn't 2015, guys. I mean, the Jets don't have Dustin Byfuglien. It's not even 2018. The Jets don't have Byfuglien. They don't have Sherratt. They don't have Myers. They didn't replace those guys with guys who are big and physical and tough. They're not a overly big forward group. Adam Lowry's their most physical player, and he is an incredibly physical player and effective player by using his physical nature. The Jets' chance of winning in the playoffs is going to be based on skill. Yes, there's an element of will involved. The Jets are not going to win a series by running people out of the building. So anyone who thinks that that's what it's going to take, that's not happening for this team. They're a skilled team. They're going to lean on their skill. They play hard enough, but they're not going to be a team that runs someone out of the building. They're not going to, run the Oilers out of the building and beat them that way. They're going to beat them with their skill.
All right, that's it for us tonight. That's an hour. We so appreciate everyone tuning in. We know that these are frustrating days, but we appreciate that you are choosing to spend time with us afterwards to talk it out, to get on the other side of this. I also wanted to say we're about, an hour and 25 minutes from the new restrictions coming in. Stay safe, people. Take it seriously. If you need help, reach out. We can, if you want to talk about that stuff when we're in this space here, let's talk about that stuff. And I also wanted to say, I was pretty bummed out because it's Mother's Day tomorrow, and my wife and my kids, we were going to go to Brazen Hall, which is our family's favorite restaurant. Just an absolutely great place. I feel for those guys at Brazen Hall, all the restaurants across the city, just because, everyone loaded up for Mother's Day, and now things are changing a bit. We're going to make sure we go anyway tomorrow to go pick up some food there, and Ken, I'll take any excuse I can get to go there and grab some of the beer that they have in stock there. Their beer master, craft master, I don't know what the word is, but if anyone listens to CBC Radio in the morning, Heather Wells delivers the news. It's her son who is the craft master or beer master at Brazen Hall, but they're firing on all cylinders there. Their beers, their food. They've got this candied bacon that they sell, and they've got cauliflower wings kind of stuff. You and I have had that down in the States, but they fire on all cylinders. Their chicken sandwich, their Nashville chicken sandwich, is absolutely the best. I say this just to say to everyone, your restaurants, your local restaurants, if you had plans, try and do what you can. Let's try and help everyone, the small businesses, get through this as quick as we can, and let's stay together. People are getting vaccinated. We're almost there, everybody. Let's just stick to it. Let's get on the other side of this, and let's do it together. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to end the night because I know some people missed it and were asking for it. Let's listen to Sean's headband one last time to take us out of the show. Good night, everybody.